Herbicides and fungicides and pesticides are old. The veggies you are growing in your garden start to mold. If the ants are attacking and you're having a hard time, call Montana Ag Live. Knapweed in the ditch and the old bull's got an itch. Ticks upon my sheep and the wool is really cheap. The gophers in the pasture are even worse than last year. Montana Ag Live, where are you?
Good evening. Welcome to Montana Ag Live, originating tonight from the studios of KUSM on the campus of Montana State University and coming to you over the Montana Public Television System. I'm Jack Riesemann. I'll be your host or moderator this evening. As I mentioned last week, if you did not see the program, I'll mention it again this week. This spring series, we listened to a lot of people who watched the program. They kept saying, have more producers on the program. So we're going to do that this spring. In fact, the entire spring series will be dedicated to highlighting producers who have taken a basic commodity, whether it be beef, sheep, grain, potatoes, taken it to the next level and basically have added value to their commodity program. We'll get to that in a little bit. Before we go to that, I'm going to introduce the panel this evening. On the far left is Nina Zydak. Nina is a plant pathologist, and she's also head of the Montana Potato Improvement Association. If you have questions concerning plant diseases this evening, Nina can sure answer them. Our guest tonight, Jeff Droege. Jeff is the owner of Dry Hills Distillery out at Four Corners, Montana. It's a neat operation. I've been out there a couple times, and we'll get into that a little bit when I come back to let Jeff tell you about everything. Bruce Maxwell, he likes to call himself an agroecologist, but basically he's a weed scientist dressed in ecology clothes. So if you have weed questions tonight, Bruce can answer them. And you all know Toby. Toby is our hort specialist. And now let me introduce the phone operators. On the left is Cheryl Moore-Goff, Cheryl Bennett, and of course Don Mathry on the end. And before we get started, this is not a rerun of Cheers this year, but Dry Hills Distillery produces some really unique products. And I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and you can talk about a little bit of them. And Bruce, you can bring up another one if you'd like.
I'd be glad
to. And keep it closed during the program. Okay.
Good luck.
Jeff, tell us about your operation.
So yeah, Dry Hills Distillery, we're 100% farm to bottle distillery. We basically started on a project that me and my brothers had talked about for a lot of years. Really, on a Tuesday night, we like to call that Brothers Night. Every Tuesday night, we'd get together, usually over a couple of drinks, and just talk about the future of farming and family. And we'd always talked about what we were going to do to try diversify our operation. I think right now it's a very important time to try think outside of the box in agriculture. We also realized that on a smaller family farming operation, with the three brothers trying to feed three families on a small farm becomes very difficult. So we wanted to come up with a project that got outside of just a pure commodity trade. And I think probably every potato producer at one time has opened up a potato cellar and said we should probably be making some vodka out of this. And that's really what got it all started. So we're a fifth generation family farm and very proud to say that we're a family owned and operated company, very difficult to do. And yeah, very excited to be here.
Well, good, and we're happy to have you here. I see some gin here. I see some what appears to be whiskey bourbon. What else do you distill?
So really, this is actually the product that got the whole conversation started. That's our Hollow Top Potato Vodka. And really when we started looking into what it was going to take to get into this business, we really looked at what wasn't available on a liquor store shelf, and not a single not only Montana potato vodka, but especially a grown in Montana potato vodka. And that's really what drove us to get into this project. We really saw the opportunity to take a very tangible item in a potato and, you know, through distillation, be able to preserve that for a long, long time. Along with that, the product you're actually holding is the gin, which is a potato-based gin, which is also quite rare. That was the second product that we came out with. That's the Montana Abbey gin. We also followed that up with our raspberry flavored potato vodka. I think you said that was maybe one of your favorites. And that product was a lot of the work of the real boss at Dry Hills Distillery, my wife Erica. She wanted to get into the flavored vodka side of things. When I started it, it wasn't really you know, something that I had a lot of passion for, but obviously when you look at what people are wanting and the demand right now, pretty easy decision to get into that. Needless to say, we wanted to come up with something beyond the huckleberry, so we chose the wild raspberry, and had no idea when we were getting into it, but it's actually the only raspberry flavored potato vodka that we can find on the market, which seems quite rare. So then our most recent product beyond the wheat whiskey is the Harrison Roots. That is actually a project that worked on with my oldest brother and his wife Colette. That's almost a private label that they wanted to do specifically for them, you know, them guys and the people that they have up at the London Hills farm. It's 100% wheat-based vodka. So when we looked across our farm, yeah, we had the potato, we had the opportunity for that, but really as far as acreage-wise, the wheat was the crop that we grew the most of, and Terrence wanted to showcase that ability also in that product. So.
Okay, I have to admit, before I move to Toby, that I'm not a flavored vodka lover, but I was out at your tasting room one day and I had a small sip of that raspberry vodka and I was impressed. I think that in lemonade or with club soda and Campari or something like that would just be a wonderful drink.
It's a dangerous bottle.
Okay, switching over to Toby from Bozeman. This person called last week, but you didn't understand the question.
I don't think it was red right.
Okay. Is there a product that will keep cottonwood and willow seedlings from germinating in the vegetable and annual garden? Not suckers.
Not suckers. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I remember the question. So, yes and no. The problem is that if you're using a pre-emergent herbicide in your garden, that's going to affect anything that you try to seed in that garden also. So, yeah, you're probably just like any other weed with those trees that are growing. You know, it's Christmas in June. Ho, ho,
Okay.
ho.
Yep, that's right.
That's all you can do.
That's Hayden's favorite old line.
Yep, right?
Yeah, that's true. Bruce from Columbia Falls. This actually came in last week. We did not get to it because we did not have a weed scientist last week. This person would like to know the best way to get rid of Canada thistle.
No, Canada thistle is so common throughout Montana. That's a very difficult question.
Should be the state flower.
Yeah, right. And in western Montana, any place there's deep soils, it's especially difficult. But there's a couple of different ways. There's consistent tillage. You can't let it go more than 18 to 20 days, and you have to till it again. You got to do it all year, and you might have to do it 2 or 3 years for that to work. Another way is to mow it, but that's probably going to be more like 5 or 6 years, and you can never let it grow more than 20 days. And usually by about the 21st of August is when it will not bolt after that. It has to have that day length in order to bolt. So you can keep cutting it off, but it restores itself during that time. And actually, for herbicides to work well, that's the best time, is to hit them in the fall when they're just in that, after the last frost. So, and there's a ton of products that'll work.
There's some very effective herbicides, and then there's your standard 2,4-Ds and Banvilles, which will set them back, but not as much as some of the others. Check with your county agent, and they will definitely, or your farm supplier, they'll let you know what products.
Bruce, if I can ask, I have been battling a thistle problem out at the Hort Farm for, it seems like 4 years now. I've hit it with 2,4-D, dicamba, tricloper, I've hit it in the spring, I've hit it in the summer, I've hit it in the fall. I even used 4 times the recommended amount of 2,4-D, and yet I still have thistle everywhere. What's going on in that situation?
Well, I think the only thing I can tell you is that at least the triclopyr is a very effective herbicide, but it's most effective when you hit it after a significant frost and after that August period. Usually we won't get a frost anyway then, but October is you want to go really, really late to have
you
an
had
effect
something?
with those herbicides.
Yeah, so Canada thistles and potatoes don't go well together. When people are trying to control Canada thistle, a lot of time we end up with non-target drift onto potatoes. And anything, so you'd say triclopyr, aminopyrrolid, clopyrrolid, the things that really, really work effectively on potatoes, or excuse me, on Canada thistle, are very, very deadly to potatoes. And the problem is that the herbicide translocates down into the tubers and actually causes problems in the growth of the tubers next year. So not only does it harm the crop as it's growing, it harms the tubers for next year. So if you're in an area that grows potatoes and you're trying to grow Canada thistle,
Yeah.
please be aware.
I'll mention to Toby too that in August and September, it looks like a snowstorm around here quite often.
Yeah.
And that's why you have continuous regeneration of the Canada thistle.
Yeah, it's very, very frustrating. And I know, I understand how farmers, ranchers, when they're trying to get rid of it, you got to stay on top of it. And, it's just one of those things where if you don't, you could have a really big mess. I would probably say that more organic acreage in Montana has been taken out of organic certification due to Canada thistle than just about anything out there.
It
Okay.
consistently comes up with organic growers, and it's a big deal. And these patches will go out there, and they'll start to increase in size, and they really get to be a problem. And really, the only way that they're working with that is through tillage and through mowing.
Back to Jeff. Question came in, Jeff. How many pounds of potatoes in a bottle of potato vodka? I assume they're talking a regular sized bottle.
Yeah, it's a great question. 750 milliliter bottle. So we are actually very proud being the grower. We use 100% fresh whole potato. Everybody thinks of a potato as being a very starchy substance. In all reality, it's a very water-based substance. So the amount of starch available in the potato, depending on variety, you end up consuming a lot of potatoes per bottle. It ends up coming out to be around 12 pounds per bottle.
Whoa. That's quite a bit, actually.
Indeed.
So you got to grow a lot of potatoes.
You do. You got to grow a lot of potatoes. You got to clean a lot of potatoes. You got to peel a lot of potatoes.
Follow-up question that actually came in from Manhattan. Is there a specific variety of potatoes that's best for making vodka?
In our opinion, yes. That was kind of the fun of getting into the business from day one. Being a certified seed potato grower, we had the ability to kind of pick and choose through the different varietals, the varietals that we had on the farm. So to start, I kind of thought a potato was going to be a potato. It's all going to distill out the same. Couldn't be farther from the truth. And we really took a liking to one particular variety that Tara grows up in the London Hills farm, which is known as the Altura. Very similar flavor-based to what you would find in a red. Very fair skin, very round profile. So a lot of different reasons why we chose that particular variety. But at the end of the day, it was the flavor.
After you process the potatoes, is there any use for like distiller's grain?
Indeed, yeah, that's something that's actually at the forefront of my focus right now, is trying to figure out more economical ways to bring our processing facility full circle. There is a great amount of feed value to, especially when you talk about distiller's grains. Now the potato itself, after going through the mash fermentation distillation process, there's not a lot of, discharge or bottoms or stillage, if you will, after that process. So Potato to grain, there's a lot more potential on the grain side of our business, but overall we're looking at different technologies. Liquid solid separation would be the main choice, just to be able to separate the solids away from the water liquid and be able to feed that off.
Okay, thank you. Nina, we are on the subject of potatoes from Bozeman. This person had potatoes in her garden last year, and a lot of them, when she harvested them in the fall, were cracked. Is there a reason for that?
Potato cracking can be caused by a lot of things. Different environmental conditions, if it's wet and then it's dry, that can cause cracking in potatoes, uneven growth. Sometimes you can even get internal cracking that you can't see from the outside, which can be a quality problem. Another thing that can cause cracking is herbicide damage. So again, I mentioned like phenoxy type herbicides. They will actually, again, as I mentioned, they will translocate down into the tuber and they will cause cracks in tubers. Another thing that we have never experienced in Montana, but it is becoming more widespread, is there are certain viruses that actually cause cracking in potatoes, and they also cause internal necrosis. So that's one thing that the industry is very, very worried about, but it's also, you know, helps solidify our objective of keeping our seed potatoes either virus-free or as low in virus as we possibly can.
And you guys have been very good at it.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yes.
All right, this is going to be a little bit of a controversial question, but I'm going to throw it out because it's been in the news a lot. It came from Stevensville. First of all, this person says with glyphosate Roundup being declared a carcinogen, and it has not been declared a carcinogen. Bruce, you're going to be able to jump in on this. What can homeowners now use to control weeds that is deemed safer?
Well, we've always felt that if there was a safe herbicide, it was Roundup. And for many, many years, there was no issues with it and no reports. Now there's been this court case in California and another 1900 right behind it. There's 1900 in California. So, you know, with it coming through the legal system, it's a matter of science on two sides, and a jury decides on what side, which the best science. And in fact, there is science on both sides. That's all we can say about that. Now, in terms of a substitute, herbicides, there really isn't a substitute for that herbicide, and that's particularly worrying because so many systems now depend on the use of that particular herbicide. So we're watching carefully to see what happens with this situation, but I can't make a recommendation.
I don't think there's anything, in my opinion, as safe to use as glyphosate. The next would probably be.
Well, that's what we've always said.
Yeah.
What about glufosinate?
Glufosinate,
Or
yeah.
glufosinate.
It's another herbicide, but in fact, it'll probably follow in that same class for now. It's hard to say, so I still wouldn't make that recommendation.
So
Okay.
one thing that I've been noticing a lot, there have been advertisements on TV for totally organic full spectrum weed killers. And I think I haven't seen any of the labels yet, but I think they're pelargonic acid, which basically just is a fatty acid that burns down the foliage. So it's just a natural dessicant type product.
Yeah,
And-
and people have been using vinegar for a long time,
Right.
very concentrated vinegar, which is a biocide. But that's a biocide. I mean, it kills everything. So, but it's fairly temporary, I guess. But is that better? I'm
Right.
not sure.
I mean,
It's
that's an interesting. I mean, not to get into the philosophy of this, but you know, when you're using vinegar to kill weeds, you're using 70% vinegar, not the stuff that you buy in the grocery store. And to say that that would be safer, I sometimes, you know, bite my tongue, and I'm not as much these days. Because I understand the word vinegar, then it must be safe. And I would say 70% vinegar. I mean, that's some bad juju.
That's
If
pretty
you get that
acidic.
in your eyes, you're blind.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's the same thing that I talk about all the time. You know, I have a lot of master gardeners, and I'm probably going to get blasted for this, but you know, they come to me, that glyphosate's terrible stuff, and then they drink a cup of coffee, And I'm looking at that coffee going, there's more carcinogens probably in that cup of coffee than you would be using in a regular spray of glyphosate.
You know how many actual carcinogens are in a cup of coffee?
It's a lot.
It's over 10,000 known carcinogens.
If the FDA, if coffee was designed and made today, the FDA would not approve it, I believe, for a drink. And so it's just an interesting, as you go through and you look at all the things that you do, that you eat and you prepare and you garden, I just feel sometimes that we have this knee-jerk reaction when we read something on the internet or we see something. It's take a breath. It's a kind of a Zen moment. Yeah.
Enough on glyphosate. Folks, the phone's not ringing right now, so if you have questions, it's a good chance to get it in this evening. The phone number is actually right there on the screen, so call in your questions. Jeff, this person would like to know, and they like the name Dry Hills Distillery, where'd the name Dry Hills come from?
It's a great question. So when we started the business, I mean, one of the hardest parts of starting a branded business as heavily branded as this is coming up with that name. And we looked at a lot of different options, but really is what we did is we kind of went back to the family history, what got us to where we are today. And the name Dry Hills, the whole area up above where our farm is just in between Manhattan and Churchill. We've been farming that same place since 1905, and a lot of the old boys still know that area as the Dry Hills. They're obviously not as dry as they once were, and it was out of appreciation for knowing what my ancestors did to toil and accomplish moving water to that area. So that was really the reason for the name Dry Hills, and it has a lot of significance to me.
It's a great name. I like it.
Thank you.
Nina, this question came in last week. We covered it last week. It's come in a couple times again tonight. People are seeing some snow mold in their lawns. Surprised?
Not surprised at all. I have to say my lawn hasn't even melted enough to see any snow mold. But you know what? Don't worry about it. In general, it's not going to cause a problem. You might get a tiny bit of dieback, but by the first week of May, you won't even see any effects. You'll be mowing your 8 inches of grass just like usual. So. Yeah.
Treat it as normal.
Right.
Don't fertilize too early because you mow too much. So just be patient.
Just be patient. It'll grow out of it.
Bruce, I love to have you on because we can throw all these funny questions to an agroecologist. Okay. Last week from Helena, this person would like to know how you kill ground level cactus in the field. It's been there for 4 or 5 years and it's spreading. I assume they mean prickly pear.
Prickly pear cactus, yeah, is actually pretty easy. You can just cut it off at the soil level, till it, whatever. I mean, once you've taken care of that, separated it from its root system, it's pretty much dead. It'll go away.
Does prickly pear come in if the ground's been overpastured or misused a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, the range scientists say it's an increaser, but in other words, when you get overuse, it'll come in. The Helena Valley is especially sandy, and those kinds of soils are places where it can survive and other things can't. So, yeah, it doesn't take much pressure at all. If you had a grass stand there and then you're
screwed it up,
you've been using it for forage for very much forage, or have an expectation of it, it's not going to work. Yeah.
Thank you. Back to Jeff. Question from Shoto. This person would like to know, first of all, how big is your potato operation? I assume they're talking how many acres?
Sure, yeah. I mean, so I guess to a little bit of background there, when I say we're a family operation, I basically have my dad and middle brother Tim that are controlling our home farm, which is in Manhattan, and then I have my oldest brother, Terrence, and his wife, Colette, are up in the Harrison area. Between the two farms, we always bounce right around just under 1,000 acres seed potatoes.
A lot of potatoes. The next question this person had is, how big is your distillery, and how much product do you produce in your distillery?
Square footage wise, I mean, the distillery sits on it's a 14,000 square foot facility. And the amount of production that we do, we're in our 3rd year of business, so that has escalated every year. But this last year, we produced just shy of 20,000 proof gallons, but not all of that went into a Dry Hills bottle.
Okay. That's too bad.
Amen. Agreed.
All right, from Bozeman, Toby, this person has some old deciduous trees, didn't say what type, with lots of lichens growing on the bark. Should they be concerned about the lichens?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. Nina, where can this person from Helena buy certified Montana seed potatoes, and when? I don't think there's any hurry this year.
Actually, there's certainly not any hurry. One of the things that's traditional that we always talk about kind of tongue-in-cheek is people have a Good Friday tradition that no matter where Good Friday falls, that's when they like to plant their potatoes. That's not the best time to plant potatoes. This year it's going to be essentially, 3 weeks from now, but still even April 19th is going to be too early to plant potatoes in Montana. But in Helena, we've got a really good number of nurseries and garden centers that buy Montana seed potatoes. One thing that you can do is we have one of our family farms, Holbrook Seed Potatoes in Twin Bridges, that is actually, they're selling their seed potatoes and also brokering other farms' seed potatoes for wholesale distribution throughout Montana. And this is a program that we actually started in the Potato Lab, and they've taken it over now. So if you look on the web for Holbrook Seed Potatoes, there'll be contact information, and you can give them a call, and they can tell you exactly where in Helena they've delivered their seed potatoes.
All right, thank you. Toby, porcupine damage on cottonwood tree trunk. Any treatment?
Not really. You're just going to have to wait and see. If it got into the cambium layer, that's that layer between the xylem and the phloem. If it got that far and chewed that far, then you might have an issue. Usually if it's more than 60% of the trunk, then it's pretty much gone.
Firewood time.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be tough, but it's a wait and see. It's one of those things where I've seen a lot of damage by voles and porcupine, even deer rubs, which I thought that tree was toast. And I came back a couple years later, and that tree's still doing fine. So it just depends on how far into that cambium layer that they
Yeah, and if
chew.
it's not fully girdled.
Yeah, if it's not fully girdled, yeah.
It's surprising how I had an apple tree that the voles got to, it got to about half of it at the base, and that tree's doing great. So 60%, I'd probably agree.
Yeah, I had one that was at the Hort farm that only had like 30 or 40% was girdled, and that tree didn't make it.
Didn't make it.
Yeah, so it's just
You
going to
don't
happen.
take right care of them.
I don't know about that.
Bruce from Ronan, this person is concerned about the weed called white top being spread in hand grain. How do you control white top? It's a tough one, isn't it?
It is very difficult. Perennial species. And there's actually a couple species that are associated with white top. Sometimes we have to ask a lot of questions typically to sort it out. But yeah, it's a mustard. It has so there's a number of problems. But they said it was in grain. It was a.
I think, spread in alfalfa.
Oh, okay, yeah, an alfalfa. I can see that. Yeah, I was going to say.
And I think alyssum could be
Sometimes
one of those.
so the people are calling white top.
Horiolism?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Horiolism.
Horiolism. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
which is
And that's
also-
where
Great Falls, Jeff. Is there anything that the legislature is doing to add value or help with this, what distillers in the state are doing? And he says tremendous staff producers on the program, and I agree. So,
Yeah, so that's one of the fun parts about being the owner of a business is you get to wear a lot of different hats. This being a legislative year, I had to dust off the suit coat and go up there and talk a little bit. But we had a lot of asks this year, but really the main ask that we had that we're going to see some movement on is for increased production to be able to produce more yet maintain our sample rooms. A lot of these laws in the state were drawn up as very arbitrary numbers. They just kind of had to pick a number out of a hat, if you will, to basically get a basis started. And they had the number of 25,000 US like liquid gallons was the amount that you could produce. Anything over that, you would not be able to have a sample room. We asked for the increase of 200,000 proof gallons, which is what you pay your federal excise tax off of, so it makes a lot more sense, and we're going to get a win on that, I'm pretty sure.
That's good. How many distilleries are there in it? And when I first came here, there was 0. So that's quite a few years ago. How many distilleries are there in the state right now?
Today, I think there's 22 or 24 active licenses out there. There's probably 5 more that I don't even know about. It's a very rapid growing industry right now, not only in the state of Montana, for the state of Montana, but nationwide. The increase of craft distilleries nationwide has grown 900%. There's so much more of a focus towards people wanting to know, where their beer got brewed, where their whiskey got made, and they're really latching onto that story. So it's good for business, but all different levels, different sizes. That's the fun part of the craft is everybody can kind of go do their own thing, make it very unique to them. But yeah, definitely a growing industry in the state.
If I can ask just a couple questions. I took a hard cider class, and I was amazed at some of the kind of archaic laws that they still have from Prohibition. Talk a little bit about that in starting a distillery, because I'm thinking there may be some people out there that are like, I'm going to do this, and I found it's not easy to get into the business.
Most definitely, and archaic is a great way of putting that. I think going along with Prohibition law, and really a lot of the problem that there is in the distilled spirits industry is the fact that you can't legally home distill. You can make your cider at home, you can make your beer in the garage, but home distillation is still completely illegal. So for somebody to take that leap of faith to say, I really see an opportunity here, I'm going to put forth the capital to get it going, you have to have every state license, federal license, every inspection needs to be done before you can make a drop of legal alcohol. So very cart before the horse, and it's a huge risk.
So you're putting a large amount of money on the table before you even produce one drop of it, which could take several months or even years before you have a product.
That's correct, and that's actually one of the parts that me and my wife Erica are so passionate about is, we saw that as a huge struggle for us to get going and to figure out, are we really making a wise business decision for the farm? So we really wanted to be a resource to a lot of people that are kicking the tires with this project. We're very open. That's maybe the best part of the industry. It's definitely what drove me to fall in love with the industry. It felt like the neighbor farm. Everybody very open book. So yeah, that was the thing, and we saw the opportunity to be able to make what we call a craft bulk. So somebody that might be thinking, hey, I could see myself getting into this business. I'm entertained by it, but maybe they don't want to throw down the $1 million plus of the facility and all of the equipment. That's what, we see the opportunity to be able to come in, co-produce that product, get their feet under them, find out whether the market has a place for their dream, and then they can run from there. So.
On that note, quickly, this particular caller loves rye whiskey. I kind of like a rye Manhattan myself once in a while. Any plans to expand your product to include rye or anything like that?
Yeah, so that, of course, hardest part of the business, especially in Montana, is coming out right. I mean, we're 100% trying to be 100% from the farm to the bottle. Whiskey takes time, so yes, we're expanding our whiskey lines. We do have rye in the barrel. We have a bunch of bourbon in the barrel. A lot of fun things coming, but with those takes time.
Okay. Well, that's good news for this guy and myself. Too.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
How many years?
We just celebrated our third anniversary.
Okay.
So,
And so how many years for a bourbon? How many years for a rye whiskey before you're going to actually be able to sell a bottle?
well, I mean, I could sell the bourbon tomorrow legally, but when you put that label of bourbon on something, it's heavily criticized, and a lot of it depends on the method of aging. The reason why we have the wheat whiskey out at this point is because we started it in 53-gallon barrels, 30-gallon barrels, 15-gallon barrels. Smaller the barrel, faster the aging process happens, and then we blend, we mingle that together to get the product that we have right now. All those other products, I just chose to put those into the large-scale 53-gallon barrels and watch the clock tick.
All right, thank you. From Wolf Point, Bruce, can weeds grow under the snow? And I bet they still have a pretty good snow cover up there.
Yeah, they probably do. Yes, we have winter annual species that germinate in the fall, and they grow very well in the. Well, they don't grow very fast, but they certainly stay alive.
They stay alive. Yeah.
They're
But it's really,
poised.
but it's real crucial to have that snow cover because for them to survive. With the continued cold we had, especially up there in the High Line this year, a lot of species might have died if they weren't covered with snow. But you pretty much, the gauge of that is watching the winter wheat.
Yeah,
If it's
you're
dead,
absolutely right.
then most of your winter annual weeds will be dead as well.
But most of our winter wheat that we now produce are pretty winter hardy compared to 20, 30 years
Oh
ago.
yes, oh yes.
Yeah, we've improved that, or Phil has tremendously. Nina from Wolf Creek, and I may jump in on this too because I really don't remember it, but last week it was mentioned if you prune the lower branches of a blue spruce tree so you can mow under the tree, it leaves the tree susceptible to a fungus. They think this has happened to their tree. Is there anything that can be done to rescue the trees? I'm thinking Cytospora.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thinking Cytospora. No, it's basically a systemic infection. It's a very slow-moving systemic infection, so it's not going to kill your tree right away, but you might lose another branch or two in the area where the infection occurred immediately, and then you might begin to lose some more branches, and then ultimately the whole tree will probably eventually die. But it can be a very slow-moving disease. Cutting the lower branches out of spruce is kind of one of those things that I think it's a personal preference. I love my lower branches that skirt the ground and mulch out the sunshine and everything, but I know a lot of people like to do that, but there always is a risk when you wound a tree, and Cytospora is one of the most common pathogens.
It's increased tremendously in the last several years.
Oh yeah,
honestly.
it's probably floating around this room right now.
Yeah.
It really is.
your
It's
room?
everywhere. It probably is.
All right, from Columbia Falls, Bruce and/or Toby. This person saw an ad in a catalog for a wand-type weed killer that utilizes steam to kill weeds for about $250. Any thoughts on the validity of this?
Steam will kill weeds like it kills a lot
They'll
of
come
things,
back,
but they
though.
come right back.
Yeah.
Typically, it'll burn off the top, but it's not a very effective long-term weed control. But and sometimes in vegetable production, things like that, if you just burn them off, you actually gain a big advantage if you're going to close canopy anyway.
Right.
So it can be useful. Some types of crops it'll work in.
I mean, they even have torches. They've had them
Yeah.
for years.
They've
That
got
you torch in
huge
between the
weed
rows,
torches,
and
yeah.
I don't really recommend it. Later in the season, you don't want to burn down the neighborhood, but that's the people have been using torches for a long time to kill weeds.
Okay.
So it wouldn't surprise me that steam would be another. There's so many garden tools and things to get rid of weeds. It's amazing.
And still is the best is hoe.
Yeah, dandelion puller, a hoe, and a hand rake. That's about that's what I use.
Okay. Jeff from Billings, this person would like to know, is your vodka gluten-free?
The potato vodka, naturally gluten-free. The wheat, I would not recommend somebody try to drink if they have a gluten allergen. Through distillation, the chances of there being a large enough amount of gluten that's left over, slim to none. But obviously if you have an allergen, it wouldn't be recommended. But the potato vodka is good to go.
Historically, you go back to Russia and the development of vodka, it was generally made out of potatoes initially until you started making it out of grain. Is there an advantage to potato vodka taste-wise over vodka made from grain?
I mean, I think that's, of course, up to the consumer to decide. In my opinion, yes, but somebody else's palate might be completely different. 100% the reason why we have two vodkas. A lot of the reason why, like you said, historically, Russia, Poland, that area, the reason why there was so many potato vodkas coming out of that region was because it was very inexpensive. Very inexpensive. The grain crop for them was a higher dollar consumable than a potato. Now you switch to present time and you have the exact opposite, which is why you see so many other products. 90% of your shelf products are made from a grain base. Whether it's a rye, a wheat, of course, corn has grown in popularity. But in my opinion, the character base that is achieved through a potato on distillation of a vodka is just truly unique compared to the grains.
Okay, thank you.
So when you make your gin, do you use juniper berries and local?
Yeah, great question. So our gin is what you would call very American style gin. There's 14 different botanicals in there. Gin is a lot of fun to make. It's really the one that gives you almost the most freedom of creativity in the product. So gin is very historical. There's a ton amount of fun history that's involved with how the gin process came to be. But really is what we had the opportunity to do was be able to use some local flora to be able to infuse that, but then we also wanted to make it very approachable, especially being a potato base like that, have a nice smoothness to it. So we use a lot of fresh citrus in it. A lot of work every time you do a batch, but yeah, like I said, very, very fun to be able to play around with those different flavors.
Nina speaks very highly
The
of your
gin is my favorite, by far.
Good deal.
Okay, Nina from Hinsdale, what will it take to get more organic potatoes produced in the state?
That's a very complex question. The big hurdle, as with any organic production, is labor. Weed control is another. I mean, I would say that weed control is pretty much always the limiting factor in organic production. We do have 2 organic seed potato producers. We have one, Jason and Yvonne Kim in the Churchill area are growing organic seed potatoes, and in any given year they have 5 or 6 acres. And then we also have a woman named Nancy Beach in western Montana who is also growing organic seed potatoes. But the labor is probably the biggest issue, and weed control is the most limiting factor for producing organic seed potatoes for sure.
Okay, thank you. Bruce from Helena, this actually is from last week. This person has spotted knapweed, doesn't say where, but he probably in a pasture. No, I'd say in a field, because he heard that by growing buckwheat, you can get rid of the spotted knapweed. What's your opinion?
I've never heard that before, I don't know what the mechanism behind that would be. Buckwheat, that would be a bit of a surprise that if it was able to control spotted knapweed. But yeah, I've never heard that one before, so I can't give you one way or the other on that.
You know, it's interesting how you hear these things, because I think it was 5 or 10 years ago, the conversation was that rye would outcompete or kill off spotted knapweed. I don't know where a lot of this information comes
Well,
from.
in the case
yeah.
of rye, there's at least some chemicals that have been isolated from them that have an effect
has
on the germination in particular.
Okay.
So, but haven't heard of that. The only connection I can think of would be that there is some concentration of phosphorus with buckwheat, and there's been some studies done where it looks like if you change the balance between nitrogen and phosphorus, you can actually inhibit to some degree spotted knapweed. Maybe that's what this is about. I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't think I'd make it as a recommendation
No.
without knowing more.
We've had a couple callbacks relative to white top and how to control it. And, I'm going to say something here. I'm not sure if it's true white top or which would require different chemical than would Horiolisum. So what I would suggest is when it first shows, get your county agent or send it in the diagnostic lab and find out if it's true white top or if it's Horiolisum. Horiolisum, I had an issue with. Escort did a very nice job of getting rid of it. That's a sulfonylurea herbicide. But let's do it that way, and we'll find out more as time progresses. Toby, this person wants to get rid of voles.
The perennial question. Buy a cat. Go down to get a cat.
Several.
Right now, what really actually does work with voles is as the snow comes off, you will see their tracks in your lawn, and they're just like us. They stay on the sidewalks and the streets, which is their little pathways, and all you have to do is get a whole bunch of mouse traps and put that tripping mechanism on that pathway. They would rather go over that trap and get caught than they would be to go around it. And so I've done this many times as far as a recommendation. I say, put out 2 dozen. Put them out in the evening. Make sure the animals are in, the cats and the dogs. Because the voles come out at night, and then call me and tell me how many you caught. And it's pretty interesting. I get that phone call like, I caught 9 of them, or I caught 12 of them. And so it does work.
This year, and actually last year, the year before, we had a tremendous vole infestation statewide. Then we had a hard winter last year with lots of snow, and I did not have a single vole this year. They just seemed to disappear. And so far this spring, where a little bit of snow has melted, I've seen no sign of voles.
Yeah, it's hard to
It's
say.
cyclical.
Yeah, it is. And it's actually cyclical, not even with the environment, from what I understand, is that the voles have kind of a cycle where they get large in numbers and then they go down. And that's, I think it's, don't quote me on this, but it's like every 4 years or something like that they have this natural cycle anyways. But the environment definitely makes a difference.
It did hurt them last year. Jeff from Big Fork, this person would like to know where they can go to buy your products.
In Big Fork. Go try the Big Fork liquor store would be my recommendation. if they don't carry it, ask that they would. Otherwise, we're in a lot of the other Flathead area liquor stores.
Pretty good distribution.
Yeah, I mean, that of course is, that's the most complicated part of the business is the distribution model. A lot of it, kind of goes back to our business model of we have spent so much time worrying about bulk producing for others that, even our own distribution has felt the effects of that a little bit. But we've seen a lot of love from across the state. So.
Do the distillers in the state have an association? I know the brewers have an association.
We do, yeah. It's called the Montana Distillers Guild. We have, let's see, I think we're probably in our 4th or 5th year of having that guild up and running. So we're still trying to figure out the functionality of all of that and really trying to group all the distilleries together to be able to, form a lasting union there. But yeah, overall it's been beneficial for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Nina from Three Forks. This person would like to know, does this late spring, and it is quite late this year statewide, affect the potato growers in both the Flathead and here in the valley?
Yeah, absolutely. So like one of the very first things, it's kind of like a snowball effect. So one of our main customers are like in the Columbia Basin. 2 weeks ago, they still had snow on the ground, and a lot of times they start planting the end of February. So they weren't even ready to receive product. At the same time, we were having temperatures that weren't getting over 20 degrees during the day. You can't ship potatoes. Potatoes are a perishable crop. They cannot freeze. So it's absolutely too cold to even open up the cellars. So the seed potato producers are really just beginning to get started shipping. I mean, I talked with Larry Crum from our State Department of Ag last week, and I mean, they are vastly, as the whole state is vastly behind. So just tell a little bit about how that affects your farm and like the spring work and everything.
Yeah, typical farming, big game of catch up. You're always always feeling a couple weeks behind. But yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, late springs. I mean, we were talking before we got on here. You know, it's like the nerve level right now isn't too high, but you know,
It's growing.
Every day it grows.
I can believe that. Thank you. Toby or Bruce, purslane in a garden, how to control it once it gets there.
Oh boy.
Don't.
It's a good mulch.
It's a great cover.
Yeah, it's a great cover crop.
It's one of those that if you do want to pull it, because it is an annual, it's really easy to pull. But when you do that, have a garbage can, garbage bags, and when you pull it, make sure that you do not drop one leaf, because that one leaf will become another plant. What you really never ever want to do is rototill it. I've seen that issue. I have been battling purslane for the last 3 years, and it's almost a losing battle. It does make a decent mulch.
But if you let it get to the point where you have a full mulch, how many seeds
Yeah,
you
that's
gonna
giant
produce?
seeds.
Yeah, I actually
Oh,
had
it's-
had purslane that was so large that it overtook my strawberry plants and choked them out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never seen it be that vigorous,
It was-
but
well-
it works as a good cover in my garden. I encourage it.
Oh, and I
Organic
love,
mulch.
everybody always says, oh, but it tastes good. I tried it once. It is not, you know, oh, it's edible. And I always say, well, it's edible, but is it palatable? And I have yet had anything with purslane that's any good.
Stuffed eggplant with purslane.
You hit the two right on the head. Blah. Why don't you put some Dijon mustard on top of that? Mm-mm.
Okay. From Billings, Jeff, what do you do with the leftover mash? We got into this a little bit earlier. Can it be fed to animals?
It can, yep. That would be the goal. You could utilize it as a fertilizer in some ways, some areas, but best route would be to animal feed.
Do you contract with yours, or do you sell to feeders in the valley?
You know, to be honest with you, the volume is very difficult to really market and find a consistent buyer that can utilize it on the, especially on the cattle side of things. We need more pig farmers in Bozeman. It'd be a great value add for pigs. I just haven't been the guy that's wanted to buy pigs yet.
Okay.
You don't want to diversify in
Your
that
neighbors
direction.
probably would
Ham
not.
flavored, bike
Right?
flavored.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I think that you're onto something
Full
there.
table right there.
All right, we're getting a little short time, but I got room for a couple questions here from Billings. Nina, what varieties of potatoes are the best adapted to Montana?
You know, really just about any variety of potatoes you can grow in Montana. If you're growing in a really short season area like Wilsaw, something like that, like dark red Norland, which is one of the most popular potatoes, is a early season, matures reasonably early. That's a really good one. But really, for the most part, it's a matter of what you like. And emphasize every time buy Montana certified seed potatoes, because over and over again we've shown that bringing seed potatoes in from outside of the state can spread diseases. So
Okay, thank you. Bruce, quickly, where can they buy or get beetles that control musk thistles? Do you have any idea?
There are a couple of companies here in Bozeman that I think sell beetles for musk thistle.
We will try to get the name of them.
And yeah, I don't have them on the tip of my
Okay.
tongue, but yeah.
I think we're going to wind it up here. Jeff, we've enjoyed having you here. You want to say anything in the next 20, 30 minutes about your project?
20, 30 seconds.
Good point.
Don't give me 30 minutes. No, I mean, greatly appreciate the opportunity to come on. Obviously, it's a great avenue for you guys to be able to reach out, and just happy to be a part of it.
Well, we sure appreciate
Great.
you being here. Folks, we'll be back again next week. We thank you all for watching the panel. Bruce, we even enjoyed you being here.
Even?
Yes,
Should we drink to that, Jack?
we can drink to it now. Folks, next week, our guest, I believe, is, no, that's not next week, following week. Anyway, tune in, check your guide. We'll see who the guest is next week. And as always, thanks for watching. Have a good week and good night.
Montana Ag Live is made possible by the Montana Department of Agriculture, the MSU Extension Service, the MSU Ag Experiment Stations of the College of Agriculture, the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, the Montana Bankers Association, Cashman Nursery and Landscaping, and the Gallatin Gardeners Club.
Get your own Montana Ag Live mug or hat when you pledge your support. Watch your favorite Montana Ag Live show online or join our Facebook discussion when you visit the Montana Ag Live link at montanapbs.org.